Welcome everyone. We are in the Greater Flamingo exhibit today. We thought we would do flamingos again because this week we're in our second week of brews for the zoo. So this week the White Oak Brewery, the local brewery, is announcing their beer that they designed for the zoo, and there's a flamingo on it. So we thought we would chat about the flamingos again today. So shout out any of the questions that you may have about our flamingos. Otherwise, I'll just jump right in and start telling you a little bit about the Greater Flamingos. So we have a small flock here at Miller Park Zoo. We do have Greater Flamingos. They are the largest of the 6 flamingo species and also the palest in color, the palest pink color. So I do get that question a lot. Oh, that was a good. So you do see that their wings do have a slightly darker pink, but otherwise they are that pale pink color all over their body. So they do get that pink coloration from pink crustacean-like critters that they do eat in the wild. In captivity, it's like a nutrient added into their kibble that they eat. So this is their feed pool on this side. Some people ask that. So this is their little feed pool next to their big pool. So this gets cleaned out every single day. Are you trying to zoom out?
Trying to zoom out. There we go.
There it is. So this is the feed pool. I get that question a lot too. I clean this out every single day, and that is just adjacent to their big pool. We don't clean that out every day. In fact, I think flamingos, they're native to like more muddy areas, so I think they like it when it's a little less, not as crystal clear like we like swimming in. But their feed pool next to their big pool, I do clean out every day. It looks kind of cloudy right now because I cleaned it out and put kibble in it this morning. Let me see if I can reach in and find some. I think they ate most of what I gave them for breakfast. So there's some dissolved kibble that I gave them this morning for breakfast. They are filter feeders. So they take that big long beak. And they'll go down into the mud flats or the shallow water, and then they'll take a big old bite, and then they will use their tongue to express all the water. And then you like my hand gestures?
I was like, you're doing your hand like a flamingo head.
I am kind of doing it. So then they use their tongue to express all the water out of their mouth, and they are just left with all those little creatures that they found in the mud. They are omnivores as well, so that means that they do eat both plant and meat. So like I said, they do eat those little crab-like crustaceans, but they'll also eat other little plant material that they find in the shallow water where they're looking. Let's see. So I did mention that they also like to, they hang out in the muddy areas. That's where they're going to make their nests and stuff out of that mud. But they are actually really good swimmers as well. So our pool does get, about 4 feet down at the deepest end. Enough that I have to put waders on when there's enough wood chips in the pool.
See if I can get it.
Clogged.
You got a nice reflection.
You can kind of see the drain cover at the bottom of the pool there.
Nope, just reflection.
But yeah, so they do have those big long legs. Let's see. Another question I get about our birds a lot is that they are all adults. You will see quite a variety of sizes in our birds. That's because typically speaking, the smaller birds, the shorter birds are all female, and then our taller ones are male. We do have more males than females. Let me think. It's 12 males and 9 females now. I think that's right. That add up to 21.
It does.
But yeah, so these guys, they vary in size from like 3 feet to almost 6 feet. I think some of those taller males are probably closer to 5 feet, 5.5 feet. Some of those males are just about as tall as I am when we're grabbing them up for vet checkups and things. Something else I also want to point out that I get a lot of fun questions about is that it looks like the flamingo's knees are backwards. And I found I'm a visual learner, so I found So I found a fun little illustration here to help us show it. So this is a picture of, are we back?
My phone's being freaky. Okay.
So I found a
flamingo
fun
illustration.
visual. I found a fun visual. When people ask me that their knees look backwards, what looks like the knee on the bird is actually their ankle. So you can see their foot is their wrist.
That's their toes, essentially.
It's their toes, yep. And so their wrist, and then that goes up to their ankle, which looks like their knee. And then their knee is all the way up here underneath their wing, and then their hip is all the way set back here on their body. And then I found this fun picture too. I'm not sure but if we looked like a flamingo, that is what our joints would look like. How weird is that? That picture made me giggle, so I had to print it out and share.
That was in a horror movie I saw one time, I think. That's terrifying.
But yeah, so that's how cool flamingo anatomy is.
That's why you get a good leg picture.
So the more you know, right? And so you'll also know, we also get questions about all those bands that those birds have on. As you can imagine, all of those birds look very similar. And so they do have little bracelets on their ankles to help tell them apart.
Pam had a good question. Let me zoom out. She says it looks like they're doing a dance. Like they're all coordinated. Is there a reason that they coordinate like that?
It is, yeah. Flamingos are a prey species. So they are very in tune with their environment. Because Eric and I are both in the exhibit together, there's usually not more than one keeper in here. Unless we have to catch them. So I think they're a little bit nervous with us both being in here. And being a prey species, that's one of their defense mechanisms, flamingos, is that they kind of move as one big flock. And that helps, makes it harder for a predator to grab one.
Yeah, predators
They all stick together.
In any type of flock or herd animal, when there's a whole bunch of them, it's harder for a predator to pick one out to try to attack. So if you have 20 or 50 or 200 animals all together, it's harder for the predators to hone in on one to try to grab. Plus, they can all kind of, if one of them moves one way, they'll all move the same way.
Yeah.
So that way, if one of them sees danger, they can move so that they all
I will
avoid
notice there sometimes when I'm in here cleaning and stuff with them that I will, I'll move one way and one bird will notice my movement and the whole flock will move before they even know why they're moving.
Yeah, and we did the budgies, for Sunday, right?
Sunday, yeah.
You'll notice that with the budgies too, especially if they're feeding, if something startles one, if one startles and flies away and makes a bunch of noise, they all just do it automatically.
As a defense mechanism, yeah.
Yep. Your mom had trouble getting the video, but she's finally made it, and she wants to know if they're endangered.
No, this is not one of the endangered flamingo species. This is probably the greatest widespread in the world, as well as I think the highest population numbers in the wild. I believe their population is increasing now as well, but they are affected by water pollution and things like that. In the wild, greater flamingos are found in small flocks like this, up to flocks of hundreds of thousands in India and in those areas like that.
Heather wants to know if all of them have names.
They do have names. I honestly call them by their band numbers. I cannot remember all 20-some names. But all the flamingos were auctioned off at a zoo a couple of years ago. And so they do all have names.
Right. And it's hard. We're appreciative that people donated.
Yes.
But because we didn't give the names and
I don't use them
identify.
because it's not an animal that responds to their name too. It's not like I use it on a daily basis.
And sometimes if we name animals, we'll pick a defining feature, like if one's super skinny or super pink or something, then we'll give it a name based on that. But since we didn't do that, and these guys pretty much all look alike.
They do look alike.
It's easier for us just to say Blue 32.
I've given a couple of them nicknames based on their leg band number, but not appearance.
Right. So.
Any other questions?
No more questions right now.
All right. What else did I go over?
Should we talk about? Should we look at the mound?
Yeah.
Yeah. Let's go look at the mound you made.
We can go look at the mound. So we're pretty much done with breeding season, but a lot of people do notice when you visit here that there is this land in the back, in the middle of their pool, and that is their nest mound. So like I said, these guys are found in the wild in those like estuary, swamp-like muddy areas, and that's where they're going to build their nests. So we do have this little nest mound that we get wet every day, keep nice and swamp-like. So you'll see that little mound, that's me made. The birds didn't make that one. That was me trying to encourage them to make a nest. It didn't work this year. So we're crossing our fingers for next year that we will get a breeding pair. When flamingos do breed, they do, two flamingos will kind of pair off and they'll build that nest together, and they'll lay a single egg, and then they will take turns sitting on that egg and taking care of that chick.
I'm gonna walk over. Pam had a question about feathers, so I'm gonna walk over and show her one that's laying here on the ground. I have to jump over the water here, sorry. Try not to get you guys seasick. But here's one right here we can look at.
That's one of the tiny ones. That's probably from the underside of a wing, because it's that darker pink color. So that probably came from a wing.
So yeah, and then I don't see, there's a couple other dark pink ones. I don't see any black ones. Have you seen any black ones lately?
No, black ones aren't as common.
So on the underside of their wing, they do have black, and we'll find those black feathers. But these are the most common.
The black ones are typically their primaries on the ends of their wings, so I don't find those very often.
Yeah, somebody had a flash of one, but they're gone. Okay, we got a whole bunch of questions. Brenda asks, do we feed them the stuff that turns them pink?
So there is a little bit of an additive in the kibble that they get. They get a specially zoo-designed kibble just for flamingos. And so that has some of that pigment in it. However, like I said earlier, that these guys are greater flamingos. So they are the palest pink of the 6 flamingo species. A lot of times when people think of that bright pink flamingo color, they're thinking of the Caribbean flamingo.
Right. Do they migrate in the wild, or do they stay in one area?
They do migrate. I would say most of them migrate. There are some wild flocks that live in areas that they don't need to migrate, and scientists are finding out that wild birds are migrating less and less because of the areas where they live are just staying warm, so there's no need to migrate.
Right. Yeah. Climate change is really messing stuff up.
Climate change is messing up bird migration, but
and you'll notice that even here in America, like, people used to say the robins would disappear.
Right, and now people say robins.
And then you
stay all winter.
You see robins year round, yeah. Angela wants to know if they get along. Well, I guess Dominic wants to know if they get along with other birds.
They have. Let me think. Wild flamingos. I mean, they'll be found with other like shorebirds in the wild. There are some flamingo species that do overlap in geographic area where they're found in the wild, but I think for the most part they just kind of hang out by themselves.
Yeah, I've seen other zoo exhibits that have some different waterfowl.
Yeah,
you could put some kind of calm ducks or something in with them.
But yeah, like they're so spooky animals that they get startled very easily.
Right.
Some people ask me what I give these guys for enrichment, and this is one of those species that sometimes they don't get a whole lot of enrichment all the time, or it's not very drastic enrichment because it scares them. I put a little pool toy, a little rubber ducky pool toy in their pool once, and they didn't go in the pool all day. So they get very simple enrichment. They do like a sprinkler though. I found that out. On hot days you'll see I'll put a sprinkler over here in the grass for them. They do like that enrichment. So if you guys have any other questions, feel free to drop those in the comments and I'll go back through the video later and answer those for you. Don't forget to, if you guys are local, to check out White Oak Brewery. I think there's a couple local places that you can purchase that beer as well to help support Miller Park Zoo. They'll have a fun little flamingo design on their beer can this week. But yeah, thank you guys so much for joining us, and we will see you next week.
Yeah, we'll post a schedule for next week, tomorrow or Friday.
Yeah.
So keep your eyes open, and then we'll do some more of these next week.
Thanks, guys.